I'm going to just jump into this video real quick, right? Because I've been seeing on social media so much of all types of things recently about how Black Lives Matter, because a white cop killed a black man. Alright, alright, this is what I'm going to say right here, alright? Stop saying Black Lives Matter, because you don't care, alright? And this is how I know you don't care. Because the only time that you say Black Lives Matter is when a black person is killed by a white person. Specifically, when a black person is killed by a white cop. That's the only time you care. Alright? You don't care in any other circumstance. You don't care when children are shot in gang violence in cities across the country. Okay, just last weekend, a 16-year-old girl was shot in gang violence in Baltimore. She was 16. Her family, her friends, they all said she was a ray of sunshine, that she was a studious student, and she was shot in the throat. She's dead, and y'all don't care. Y'all didn't say anything. Because she wasn't killed by a white person, so it doesn't matter. Her life didn't matter. A couple weeks ago, a 4-year-old was shot in Detroit in front of his grandmother in his house. Right? He was 4. That's. Do you understand how horrifying that would be if you watched your 4-year-old grandson get shot in front of you? Right? And just in the last 3 months, 2 13-year-old boys have been shot going to a basketball game. One in DC and one in Pennsylvania. But you didn't care about their lives because it wasn't a white person. Just gang violence. In 2018, the homicide rate for blacks was more than 7,000. But you didn't care about those black lives because 93% of them were by other black people. And people will be like, or always like to be like, no, why are you talking about black on black crime? Whites kill whites too, that people kill within their own race. That's not the reason people talk about it. People talk about it because the rate of homicides in the black community is 8 times that of the white community and the Hispanic community combined. That's why people talk about it. Not because they want to deflect, but because it's a serious issue. Right? There's like an analogy that's been going around recently with like regards to the All Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter with a house on fire. Right? It's a dumb analogy, but I'm going to run over it real quick, okay? Imagine a police brutality is that house on fire, and everyone's just fixated on that problem, right? But if you zoom out, you're going to see that the entire city's on fire. And that no matter how many times you put out that house, it's just going to catch on fire again because the whole city's on fire. Right? That's basic, and all you guys are looking at is that house. That's basically what you guys are doing. You're just looking at the house on fire and saying this is the only important thing, and ignoring the entire city that's on fire. It's hypocritical. Because that shows your complete lack of care. Right? Because you don't care about anyone else unless you're going to get a pat on the back and some Instagram likes and some Facebook likes and some Twitter followers for saying Black Lives Matter. The only reason you're saying it is because George Floyd died, and now you're like, and all these other people have died because of police brutality. That's the only reason you're saying it. Not because you care. You've never cared. In 2015, 38 unarmed black people were killed by police. In 2019, that number had dropped by almost 65% to only 14. 14 out of 40 million. This year so far, confirmed, is 6. And 4 of those were labeled as attack. So even then, just with that, this whole myth of widespread police brutality, widespread police just killing black people indiscriminately on the streets, is all a lie. And you assume that it's because of racism. If you think that every time a white cop kills a black person, it's because of racism, then you're a racist. Right? There's no other way to put it. Because if you believe that, then that means that you are boiling everything down to just skin color. And if you boil everything down to skin color, that makes you a racist. Because you don't care about any other factors. That doesn't mean that it doesn't happen sometimes where it's a racist, but most of the time it's not. Right? And you all just say this so much, but when you say Black Lives Matter, you never say it in response to gang violence. You never say it in response to abortion. No one said it in response to the 7 black people who have been killed in protests over the death of George Floyd. Right? 7 black people have died, and 1 half black person. Alright, they died because of a protest. They were not killed by police. They were killed by protesters, by rioters, right? By people taking advantage, right? By these white Antifa people, right? And no one cares, right? Where's the justice for David Dorn or Dave Patrick Underwood? You know, no one cares, right? Some of these are cops or former cops. And here's the thing: when you're protesting, mass protests, day after day after day after day after day, right? Those cops that could be in their communities preventing crimes now have to deal with your sorry asses because you're protesting a lie. They are now there to keep the protests under control instead of being there stopping crime. This this is not helping anybody. Where were you in February saying Black Lives Matter? You were nowhere to be found. Where were you last year to say Black Lives Matter? Nowhere. You weren't anywhere last year. Because no one else was saying it, and so you just thought you could just walk on by and just leave it alone and not care. This is just making things worse. Like, you had everybody on your side until you began rioting. Like, everybody agreed that it was wrong, and then you decided to riot. Like, everyone was on your side. I haven't heard anyone who said that that was okay. Now, and the other thing, you guys don't care when it's abortion. Or since 1973, more than 19 million black babies have been murdered by abortion. You don't care about their black lives. Their black lives don't matter. So you don't care to say Black Lives Matter if you don't care about those 19 million. Over 300,000 just a year who are dying every year. Because abortion is the leading cause of death in the black community. But you don't care about those black lives. You don't care if when a black police officer dies, his black life doesn't matter. You don't care if they die from gang violence, their life doesn't matter. You care when they go to prison, but you don't care about the people that they killed. Right? You only care in this one circumstance. Right? When a white person kills a black person. That's the only time you care about black lives. That's the only time you say Black Lives Matter. You never care in any other circumstance. Right? So stop saying Black Lives Matter unless you're going to say it for abortion and gang violence and drug overdoses and all the other things that kill black people that can be prevented. Like, if you're not willing to go and talk to the people in these low-income neighborhoods, and if you're not willing to go to the hood and talk to these people and have a conversation and ask them how you can help, alright, the places where all the crime happens. If you're not willing to go there and actually address the problems, then you don't give say Black Lives Matter. Because you don't care about these people. You only care in one circumstance. So you go ask yourself that question. Do all Black Lives matter to you, or just some? And if the answer is some, then you don't go say Black Lives Matter. And you can go on your merry way and stop trying to get pat on the back for how virtuous you are, how much you care. Right? If the answer to that question is some, and you only care in some of your cases where you never talk about the other problems, then you don't care enough to be able to say Black Lives Matter. Right? So if you're not going to post about abortion, about gang violence, about drug overdosing, about all the other problems as well. I'm not saying don't focus on police brutality. We need to focus on that too. We need to We need to end police brutality. We need to end the killing of unarmed black men. We need to end the killing of unarmed people in general. But if that's the only thing you care about for black lives, then you do not have the right to say Black Lives Matter. If the only time you care is in that one circumstance, then you don't get to say it, because you don't care. You're just doing it to get a nice pat on the back. You're doing it because people will be like, yay, good for you, we agree, yay. Stop saying Black Lives Matter unless you actually care. Stop saying Black Lives Matter unless you are going to address all the problems. Not just honing in on one and forget about the black community and throw it into the side as soon as that problem is, as soon as all the attention around that problem has subsided. Because if that's the only reason that you care about black lives, then you don't care at all. You just don't want to be pictured as you just don't want to be painted as a racist. So you say Black Lives Matter in that case, then you forget about them and you push them to the side. So stop saying Black Lives Matter unless you actually really mean it. Unless you actually think that all black lives matter. Because otherwise, you're just a hypocrite. And it's sickening and it's disgusting. And I am not going to be the one who just stands by and as you paint this narrative of how good you are, when I know for a fact from what you actually say and do that you don't actually care. You don't care about ending racism. You don't care about ending police brutality because it's a fuel to make you look virtuous. So don't give me this BS narrative about how much you care about the black community. Because until you actually are willing to go into the black community and talk to them, until you're willing to actually fight for prison reform, until you're willing to actually fight for meaningful police reform, until you're willing to fight for all the other issues that face them, until you're willing to stand up and say abortion is wrong, until you're willing to stand up and say that and prepare programs to help end gang violence, to help increase youth involvement, until you care about all these other things as well, until you start donating to help the organizations that are already on the ground helping, you don't care about black lives. You only care about social media likes. And until you can say that Black Lives Matter and mean it, then don't say Black Lives Matter. Instead, just stay off your social media entirely until you're ready to actually care.